Hello and welcome. You're on Strategic Insight on StratNews Global. I'm Nitin Gokhale. In the sixth episode of this series, we are doing in association with the United Service Institution called Strategic Insight. We are going to talk about the challenge that India can pose to China when it comes to air power, or vice versa. And what does India have in terms of air power when it comes to taking on China in along the northern frontiers, or even otherwise when the balloon goes up against China, or even otherwise, what is the deterrence that China can be posed by India when it comes to air power? And to discuss the relative air power that India and China have and what India brings to the table when it comes to the Air Force, I have with me two distinguished air warriors, if I may call them. Air Marshal Anil Chopra to my right has flown a number of combat aircraft in his career, retired as the air officer personnel in the Air Force headquarters. And to my left, Air Marshal Anil Khosla, retired as Vice Chief of the Indian Air Force not too long ago. And of course, again, a combat veteran as far as flying missions are concerned. So let me turn to you, Marshal Chopra. When this Ladakh standoff has happened, and there has been a lot of discussion about how China has amassed land forces along the line of actual control. And it's also moved a lot of air assets to Tibet and Xinjiang. But then people have generally said that the Indian Air Force has both qualitative edge and edge in experience in air combat against when compared to the Chinese experience. What's your assessment?
Nitin, with your permission, I want to make one or two general statements before I come to the specific Air Force part of it. Deng Xiaoping, who was the person who brought the change in China, the economic reformation, he once said, hide your strengths, bide by the time, and thereafter take your calls when the time comes. Similarly, there is another gentleman who was the vice principal of the Communist Party school, who also said that it is in China's interest to have a multipolar world, because he felt that the power transition theory, which says that whenever there is a major transformation taking place in the world, like happened during Hitler's time, there is a high risk of people becoming aggressive or there being a war. Right. With this background, if you look at what has happened in the recent past, ever since Xi Jinping has come into power, he has centralized power. He is chairperson of everything. He has removed all opposition. He has removed collective leadership that was being practiced in the past. And when you take all the power in your hand, there are some dynamics which are being seen in the world. In fact, practically with every country in the world, China has an issue today. You see Japan, you see what has happened in Hong Kong. They are getting aggressive over Taiwan. They are having issues in Asian countries. They are having
even with Bhutan, tiny Bhutan.
and they are trying to meddle with a lot of other countries, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar. We know all that. But one thing which China did well is that in 1990s they realized, during the Iraq War, the dominance of aerospace power. And that is when they started putting all their energies to aerospace, whether it's aircraft, whether it's aircraft carriers, whether it's space. So I thought this is important for us to understand that they have understood the importance of aerospace power, and that is the context in which now I am going to talk about what is happening in Ladakh. Ladakh is a peculiar area. We all know the great Himalayas, And we also know the constraints of terrain, our side, their side. We also know what are the air assets available with the Air Force in terms of airfields, this side or that side. So a war in Himalayas is going to be very, very peculiar. A dummy run of which we have already done in Kargil. So we have that big advantage that we have gone through a dummy run of the kind of war. But physically positioned today, there are three major airfields of China which are in that region, which are of interest to. One is Hotan, which is relatively lower, about 5,000 feet altitude, 350 kilometers from the area of action. That is where most of their PLAAF and Pakistan Air Force exercises have been done in the past. A little farther away, about 600 kilometers, Kashi or Kashgar is what we call bigger airfield at a much lower altitude. And then Gargunza, which is not too far from Leh, about 200 kilometers. So these are the three airfields, and bulk of the action as far as Chinese are going to be concerned is going to be Hotan. Hotan is going to be made. In Hotan, we have already seen pictures, now OSCENT pictures that are available in public domain. They have got the H-6 bombers. They have, of course, H-6 bombers in greater numbers are in Kashgar. They have the J-7, which is basically a strike aircraft, and they have it in large numbers. They have the J-10, the equivalent of, which is a copy of the Lavi, which they have in significant numbers. And then they have got a series of other aircraft, which are J-11, etc., which are more or less the Su-30 class of aircraft. So this is what we are going to expect on the other side, J-7, J-10, and you say Su-30 class, MKI class of aeroplanes. On our side, of course, Leh is equivalent to Gargunza, similar height, more or a little closer, only 80 kilometers from place of action. But much larger number of airfields, which are within 350 kilometers range, the kind of range we are talking of in terms of Hotan, that side. And that means the entire belt of Punjab airfields, Adhampur, Halwara, Ambala, whole heap of Pathankot and big works. So purely in terms of number of airfields, we have phenomenally larger number of airfields. Our airfields, of course, all at barring Leh at much, much lower altitudes. Even Srinagar Avantipur is around 5,000 feet, which is same as Hotan. So therefore, we have a big advantage in terms. And the entire Air Force India is sitting in this region. You know, because this is the region, the Western Air Command region, which is looking after both Pakistan and China. And therefore, a bulk of our air assets are sitting over here or can be brought to bear over here. So therefore, we have this particular advantage. Mind you, we have got only, we are down to 30 squadrons, 29, 30 squadrons. Chinese have close to 80 squadrons, but the bulk of this Air Force is sitting on their eastern seaboard, because that is where a lot of action is taking place. So broadly, I have told you what is here. As we go along, I'll try and explain to you what are the areas where they are strong and what are the areas we are strong.
Right. So
and that I think will be will actually bring the
what is the relative
bring out the relative.
Yeah. So I'll come back to you, but Marshal Khosla, what is the air power doctrine of the Chinese? You must have studied it. I mean, are they have they graduated from what kind of primitive air force that they were, say, even 30 years ago? Have they come to a certain class which India should be wary of, or what is the challenge that they pose?
Okay, thanks, Nitin. Thanks to you, sir, and you to getting me here and making me sit with my guru. And I don't know why we're sitting this way. You could have come here and I could have gone there. I've been following you for years. You could have answered these questions much better than me. Okay, coming to the point before, I'll just put one thing in perspective. One is, we keep talking about two front. Earlier days, the people used to think that all the military people call two front just to justify their requirements and needs and to put the force behind it. It is facing, it is in our face.
Now we are faced with
and it's not two front, it is 2+2. If you include the internal security situation in the north, in the east, and the center, as well as the COVID situation, it is 2+2 front.
Correct.
So it is facing, it's a wake-up call for us.
Yes.
If we don't wake up now and do something corrective action, I'm afraid in the future we're going to have mud on our face.
Sure.
That is one. Secondly, as far as China is concerned, if the air power like Marshal Chopra has already summed it up, if I have to sum it in one sentence, I would say quantitatively they are ahead of us. Qualitatively, like he said, somewhere we are ahead, somewhere they are ahead.
Right.
But overall, they have overtaken us and they are pulling ahead at a much faster pace. Their puppet, Pakistan, if you see, he is closing on to us slowly. So the moral of the story is we need to step up on the gas to maintain the balance. That is the perspective. Now coming to the PLAAF aspect, I will answer your question in 3 points. One is the origin of PLAAF is basically on Russian basis. The Russian model, the equipment, the philosophy, even the structure. And it was a tactical sort of a PLAAF. And their orientation was not war fighting. The orientation was commercial issues and all that. So now, as the country started improving, the China, the economic conditions and all, the aspirations also increased. The middle kingdom syndrome and center of a lot of theories are floating around. I have a theory of cone theory. Right. They feel they're in the center and they're on the top.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's combined.
So, so their aspirations are, whatever, superpower and, one sun in the sky and whatever you say, not avoid the century of humiliation,
right.
Get the glory back, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
So since the aspirations increased, they realized for that they have to have expeditionary capability and which can only be given by the Navy and the Air Force. Now you see this in this perspective, in this light. In 1990, when the Gulf War took place, they woke up. They did it a very scientific way, like the Marshal said, they bid time, they held on, and now they started. They studied, they read everything. And what have they done? They have given more importance to the Navy and the Air Force. They got them out of the clutches of army, clutches or whatever you want to say. Even now, if you see the important, in the restructuring, important positions are being given to the Army and the Navy and the Air Force. They gave new technology equipment to the forces to fight. They did what we are struggling, Atmanirbharta. They have got a very good defense industry. He's written a book on it, very high class, that is self-sufficiency. So they've gone in a very scientific way. Now the capability building, they're also going in a very scientific way. They're identifying the weaknesses and one by one they are improving upon that. That is work in progress.
Right.
Now coming to, that is the evolution process. Sure. The second part, you asked me about the strategy or where does it fit into it.
Their doctrine maybe.
I have a theory. In China, they use the defense forces for ruling the country. Okay. The army is owned by the party.
Right.
They use it for, now, this theaterization aspect. I'll diverse a little bit with your permission.
Okay.
If you see the map of China, you talk about Western theater is so huge.
Correct.
And it is area-wise equivalent to all the other 4 theaters.
Yeah.
Now you superimpose this theater map with any of the map of the China of road, railway line, population, density, even night life, night lights.
Correct.
You will realize why. It's not because of India, it is because their population is very thin, it is hardly anything. Whereas those are,
correct.
So they use it for
population is concentrated on the eastern seaboard.
Why I brought out this is we are learning from China for theaterization, but we are doing the wrong thing maybe. Anyway, this was digression.
Yes.
Why I wanted to bring out this was, now you come to the Air Force PLAAF, back to it, and their aspiration to go expeditionary. Right. Okay, so the grand strategy is they are using the defense forces also now for foreign policy, which is what you're seeing in South China Sea. Right. They're using the Air Force, they're using the Navy, they're using the Army, and Air Force, they're doing long distance sorties, they're doing H-5, H-6 bombers, they're intercepting this thing, they're declaring ADIZs. Right. What is all this? Yeah. This is all strategic posturing by the use of
air power or even hard power.
So the hard power, their air power also they're using for their foreign policy as a tool. Now coming to the third part of it, in the military strategy where the Air Force fit in PLA. Right. As I said earlier, they're coming out of the clutches of Army and the Army dominance and they're giving more importance to it. Right. I will not go into, I'll just cover 2 points. Right. One is the PLAAF. One is that in the military strategy, they have got a very important role in the, what they call it, strategic coercion. Strategic coercion has got two elements. One is posturing, and second is muscle flexing. So if you see in Doklam, I handled Doklam in Eastern Air Command. All these airfields like Lesser brought out in Hotan, you'll find fighters lined up in one line.
It's
15 of
basically
them.
projecting the
Whenever
power.
there is a meeting going on, this thing, they'll bring in H6.
Right.
These are all posturing. They're not for fighting, they're for show.
Yeah.
They're muscle, showing muscles.
So they actually fight in 5 domains, like I keep saying, Army, Navy, Air Force, land, sea, air,
And,
space, and then information.
psychology.
And psychology.
Yeah.
So,
So just one more issue I wanted to bring out. So the Air Force has got a lot of, their Air Force has got a role in this strategic coercion. Secondly, now if you see the PLAAF whole model, 3 or 4 things stand out. One is their strategy is to avoid contact warfare. Very straightforward. That's why they are developing more long-range vectors. Their industry and their reliance on unmanned platforms is tremendous. Thirdly, electronic warfare, technology intensive. Fourth, space. So they have amalgamated the space and the air warfare. So this is very, very peculiar, and this is the way they are going. So the strategy-wise, they are into no contact warfare as far as possible.
correct. No, I think that's a very big point that he has made. And I think this is where we now have to, at least people like me who are watching from outside, have to change even our outlook to say not air power but aerospace power, like you mentioned in your opening remarks. But where does then India, apart from, of course, increasing the number of squadrons, combat squadrons and all that, what does India need to do in the long-term strategy as far as Air Force is concerned? What would be your prognosis or prescription?
Yeah, let me first take off from where Marshal Khosla was at the end when he said that what does no contact warfare? I think that word, I need to expand that into physicals, what are physically there. You see this H6 bombers, 120 of them they have got. They are coming out with the neo versions. The K version is already here. There's an N version which is coming up. There is another H version. Oh, they're doing... that includes one electronic warfare version, etc. Now, 6 cruise missiles. Now, we do not have with the Air Force a bomber of that class with such large number of cruise missiles. That's one area. If you look at their fighters, our fighters, they're more or less, we are sort of quality-wise, we are equivalent now with Rafale coming. When we get the full numbers, we will be sort of one up, but we still 36 is a small number. One day we should have more of these. So fighters, we are similar. Transport aircraft, they have numbers, but overall we are balanced with them. Helicopters, they have got these Z-10, Z-19. Z-19 is a smaller, like a light combat helicopter. Z-10 is closer to the Apache. So attack helicopters wise, we can say we are balanced. Again, they have got a little more numbers than us. Right. We have got only 2 squadrons. They have got about 60 attack helicopters. Right. But some other areas where they are better off. One is that in that no-contact warfare, they're going to use surface-to-surface missiles, which they have got large number. The total number of cruise missiles are also significant right now. We are also catching up, but numbers are still, we are short. So surface, in that no-contact warfare, they feel that missiles are so much more difficult to defend from. Yes. And therefore, they are going to use those missiles in that no-contact warfare. So therefore, how do we neutralize them?
Air defense.
Air defense. Surface-to-air missiles. Do we have adequate numbers? Are we inducting them fast enough? Question marks. Because these are areas, I'll give you an example. For the LCA, in 1985, Indian Air Force made the SQR to say we need a replacement for MiG-21. And we know we have got just 20 odd aircraft today. And in 2001, when you wanted 126 aircraft, you're having 5 Rafales. So as a nation, somewhere we are going wrong in terms of modernization. The backlog of modernization of Indian Air Force is significant. There was a talk recently in the Air Force Association, US Air Force Association last year, in which they have got 312 combat squadrons, US Air Force. They have recommended that if you have to take on China and Russia, you require 384 combat squadrons. Now, No, of course, we don't have to compare with the Americans. It's in public domain, these figures.
Yeah.
Now, my contention is that we are at this terrible figure of 29, and we don't do something immediately. Immediately means yesterday.
Immediately, yeah, exactly.
We are going to go down further.
Right.
And as Marshal Khosla said, Pakistan is also catching up.
I was just going to
They
come to that.
are at 22 squadrons.
Yes.
Combat squadrons. Their target is 28, but I don't think they have money to go to
Yes.
28.
Unless somebody donates to them.
But then their numbers are coming up. So, to summarize,
Yes.
for no contact warfare, we are short of, we don't have the bombers of the class that they have got. We do not have sufficient cruise and SSM missiles. So what is going to help us succeed in that? We have seen in Kargil. You know, as Marshal Nambiar said a few days back in an interview, though the glory went to the LGB strike on the Tiger Hill,
Right.
because that is what the video the whole country could see. But the actual impact was the interdiction at Mantu Dhalo, where the entire logistic camp
Base was
finished
destroyed, yeah, exactly.
with using 250 kgs dumb iron bombs. So the point I'm making is, what Indian Air Force will have to do in Ladakh is to take on targets, especially interdiction targets.
Right.
You know, where there'll be some critical bridges which will stop
The
lines of
movement,
communications over there. There could be a concentration of tanks. They'll not be, it's no point taking on individual bunkers there. There will be some battalion and brigade headquarters that we'll have to knock on, because they will have all the communication nodes over
That's
there.
right.
One more area which I want to highlight,
Sure. Please.
if you permit, is electronic warfare. That's an area where Chinese have got significant number of aircraft. No, electronic warfare, they've got 14 large dedicated electronic warfare standalone aircraft. You know, we have got electronic warfare on other aircraft.
Yes.
Their FRAs, we have only 6-7 FRAs, not sufficient.
Right.
See the number of FRAs they have got. AWACS, AEWs. I mean, the case for additional AWACS has been going on for last 15, 18 years. To have 3 serviceable, 4 serviceable AWACS is no number for a country like India. Forget to
The
fight
size.
China, to fight anybody. And again, this case has been going on for such a long
Nearly 15
time.
years, yes.
Even the indigenous DRDO Netra AWACS that we have, just to have 2 numbers. I mean, you should have 10 of these smaller ones, at least 5 to 8 bigger AWACS. If you really want to face either of these 2 countries, leave alone taking them on together. And the issue about taking them on together,
Yes.
you know, between them, commonality of equipment and regular training. They have already finished the 8th series of Shaheen exercises. They are training quite a bit. Chinese are getting an idea from Pakistanis. Pakistan are also learning how to fight a Su-30 class of aeroplane, which is with the other side. So I think this close coordination is something
Which we have to be.
we
wary
cannot
of.
take it casually.
We cannot take it casually. But Marshal Khosla, I also wanted to bring out this aspect, which is more or less ignored in most of the cases, is the man behind the machine. The Indian Air Force is going to be 80 years old in 2022. 90 years old in 2022, and it's the training, the ethos, the kind of skills that our men and officers and now women and officers have. I think that is quite underestimated. What would you, because you have handled all assignments, you would know where we stand there.
Yeah. So, Nitin, you're very right. When you compare, it's not only numerical comparison or the platform comparison and its capabilities. It is very important to see, like I keep giving these examples. When you see a boxer, when you physically assess him, you see what is his height, what is his weight, how much muscles he have and all. But what is going on in his mind, you don't know.
Exactly.
How agile is he, you don't know. What tactics, what strategy he is going to use and fight, you don't know.
Right.
That is where this human element comes in.
That's right.
Absolutely right. So in this department, I feel we are ahead of them not only ahead, I feel we are much ahead of them. Why I'm saying this now, I'll qualify it is, one is that their tactics, our tactics is well established. We have platforms and equipment from different countries.
Exactly.
When these platforms and equipment comes, their war fighting philosophy also to certain extent comes along with it.
Right.
So we have imbibed that. We do exercises with whole lot of countries.
Right.
Okay, whole lot of them. We can divide them into various categories and we gain, and best practices are picked up. Second advantage, we have our own tactics and combat development establishment.
That's right.
We develop our own tactics. We pick up good things from all over the world. We adapt to ourselves and we make our own tactics.
True.
Whereas their tactics is, I call it a khichdi tactics. Secondly, they're not even evolved in the sense they have not even picked up these things. They do exercises only with Pakistan. Earlier days, even these exercises, they have done Shaheen series. That is why the interoperability with them, 8 of them they have done. But earlier ones, even the language problems used to be there. What I'm told is that there's hardly any meaningful exercise. Right. So what I'm bringing out is, now they're picking up these tactics from media or wherever this thing, plus whatever they're trying to reach out with other countries. Secondly, Pakistan is helping them with all these BBR and other tactics, but they're learning fast. I must say that. But in this department, we are way ahead. So if you have to summarize, I would say the PLAAF is still crossing the river feeling the stones.
Exactly.
Okay, that is one aspect.
Right.
Second is, there is another aspect, the freedom for the, like, we have a lot of freedom of action to our pilots and the crew and this thing. Whereas in their case, they have two masters.
Right.
This is also they're rectifying it, but this is also, there's too much of control over actions even on the tactical front, forget about anything else.
Right.
So I would say on the whole that this aspect is very important. At the moment, we are way ahead of it, but we should continue being ahead.
I think both of you have brought out and the stark realities of where we are. We lack equipment. We should have actually modernized our aircraft, strengthened it numerically as well as technologically. Unfortunately, that has not happened, but maybe this is a wake-up call, and I think going forward, we will see some quick action, maybe fast-track acquisitions. I do not know, but the fact is, I'm glad that both of you spoke so candidly and brought out the issues that the Air Force faces, and yet we have done well. The Indian Air Force has done very well in its glorious history. So on that note, I want to end this episode, but do keep watching us, keep liking us on our social media platforms, watch us on the YouTube channel and of course our website, and coming back to give us more comments is what we will welcome from all of you. Until the next time, it's goodbye.